Welcome back to another episode of One Red at a Time. I am Salatu Sule.
I am Odion Edu.
Today we'll carry on with the conversation where Odion has questions for me and I answer them.
Yes, we have one here. What do you do when people accuse you that you are at fault because you are not broken?
People accuse you that you're at fault. Somehow at fault for what happened.
Maybe you have hand in the thing, I don't know, whatever happened.
Because you're not broken.
You are not rolling on the floor, you're not wailing, you're not shouting.
Okay, you're not sitting staring into space.
Yes.
You're not morose.
So they are thinking,
Okay. What to do? First, let's talk about where the people are coming from.
okay.
There are some cultures where they have expectations around how a person should grieve. Because some people just have an assumption in their heads, a picture in their minds of what grief looks like on somebody. In some cultures, yes, they expect you to wave or they expect you to show and express your grief very clearly, very strongly, even if you're not shouting and waving. Some cultures have expectations about how long you should show or express grief. If you do not match the expectation, then some people will have different thoughts in their heads about that. Some people are wise enough, they've got experience or insight or understanding, and when they see you are not grieving as strongly or as long as people might expect you to under the circumstances, they just conclude that, well, people grieve differently, which is true. People do grieve differently. Your personality can affect how you grieve. That's one side. Then you have the people who they see how you are responding to the adversity and they make certain conclusions within themselves. They judge actually. Some don't keep their judgment to themselves, they actually say it. They say it to the person grieving, they say it to others, they say it on the internet or it goes around, it hits the grapevine on how you ought to, how you are supposed to express grief or how long you should grieve for, and that you're not maybe meeting up to expectation. That judging, that judgment can be very hard on someone because sometimes the judgment they make is you didn't really want it anyway. So your business burns down and they think, well, maybe you didn't really want that business, or maybe you had a hand in burning down of your business place. Or someone loses a child or a husband, that's the most hurtful one, and they say the person probably didn't really love them that much. Or they seem more relieved than sad actually that the person is dead, or that you had a hand in it.
This one happened to me.
The one of saying you had a hand in it.
Somebody sent me a message. After I lost my first baby, I changed location just to be with my family. So there was a place where we were like talking, laughing, playing. I didn't know my older brother was recording. So he ended up posting on his WhatsApp status. And somebody sent me a message. I saw you laughing, playing, you want to answer. Like, yeah. And he said, you didn't even deserve to have that child. If I were even about pregnant, things like maybe you even had somebody with a child, so you didn't want it, and then you did something and baby left. So this kind of thing, I was just confused. Like, where is this coming from?
Yes.
Is this from a family member? Like, I would not like to have blocked the person or what.
I don't blame you. Because one of the ways to deal with such people is to not engage.
Okay.
To just don't engage.
Okay.
Don't try to explain. Don't even get into a quarrel or an argument or fighting. I think because when you're already dealing with your own emotional pain, the weight of the adverse situation, you do not need to rile yourself up. You don't need to increase your cortisol, adrenaline levels, getting into a fight with anybody. You don't need to take on more stress. So whatever it is they are thinking, whatever assumptions they are making, leave it with them for them on their own heads and don't take it on. Do not engage. So blocking somebody, I don't blame you at all. That's one. The second thing is how to deal with it is to actually realize you don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe it to them to explain how sad you are feeling.
Yeah.
You already know how sad you feel. You don't need to explain to somebody. You don't need to find the words to tell someone how sad you feel. Because when you're in pain and you're trying to find the words to express the pain, it can become even more painful. So you don't need that. You don't owe anybody anything. There are very few people who matter in any individual's life to the extent that you would need to explain how you feel to them. There are very few. It's those close relatives like a parent, a sibling, a child, or a really close friend or a spouse. And I say, for such people, they matter more when they are the ones who come up to you and say, how are you doing? If they notice something about your demeanor, your response, or your attitude seems a bit off. Let's take the example again. You were with family and you were all joking and laughing, and a family member notices that you are laughing really hard and a lot, and they think, that's off. Is this you swinging in the extreme opposites, trying to run away from your pain and grief? Such people, if they care, they would come up to you and say, how can I help? They would stick to support you. They won't make judgments. They won't rush to judgments. They won't make assumptions. If they really are curious, they would want to know. I want to understand this. I noticed you did this. I noticed you're like this these days. They would want to know. If they care enough, then you would take the time to share with them how you truly feel, what's going on with you. Other than that, you don't owe anybody anything. Your grief is not something to be shared with the world, except with those who can actually help support. Thirdly, grief has no manual. There's no how you are meant to grieve. Yes, there might be societal norms, cultural expectations, they exist, but there's still no manual. And everybody has to make that journey in a way that best helps them thrive. At the end of the day, the question is, are you moving towards thriving? Thriving means you are not just subsisting, you're not just existing. You do the basic things. You bathe, you eat, you pray, you talk to people. Then you try and move to a higher level where you carry on your normal functions and you try and get your head and your mind into a stable place. One step at a time, one breath at a time.
Okay. All right.
And I think the other thing I also would love to say is instances where I have seen or heard people make such judgments that you are not grieving the way you are meant to, it probably means this, it probably means that. People who make such judgments very often have not experienced that form of adversity. They may have been through some difficulty, but not that. Rarely would the person who accuses someone of killing her husband because she's not crying hard enough be the same person who actually experienced the loss of a husband. There were a family member who made that comment about you. I don't think so. In all honesty, I don't think so. Usually, when the person has experienced it, they would even be transported back to their own time of pain and grief just by hearing yours. That they will not have the time to judge you. If you see someone who has faced adversity, or is probably still in what you call the early stages, maybe it's a day after, a week after, a month after, and the person doesn't appear broken, the person seems to be thriving, seems to be reverting to whatever state they were in before the adversity happened. Say Alhamdulillah for them. Like, good on you, Alhamdulillah for you. And then make dua for them that whatever you're seeing on the outside is really deep down, inside their hearts. That they are not just trying to put a plaster on a wound that hasn't fully healed. But not to judge. Support, make dua for the person, wish the person well, and leave it at that. Everybody is different.
Yeah, you mentioned something about personality and grief. Can you tell us more?
Yeah. What I meant by that is how we respond to grief can be dependent on our personality. Our personality, in a nutshell, personality is how you respond to the world, how your mind works, how you look at the world, make certain interpretations, and then how you respond. It's something we are born with. Personality is something that we arrive in this world with. They would often say by looking at even babies, you can start to identify some traits of personality in them. And from personal experience, I feel even from the womb, how a mother experiences her child in the womb would sometimes hint at certain personality traits, which from anecdotal evidence, mothers would often say, right from when this child was in my womb, this child was already like this, like that. And then the child arrives, and as the child matures, that trait is still there. It's not the only determining factor of how we respond to the world. Our environment is part of it, a number of things, but personality forms a core part. Now, how does this affect how we grieve? There are certain aspects of personality that have to do with how much energy we move through the world. By energy, I mean how much drive and enthusiasm and power we move through the world. Some people have high levels of energy. You see it in them every day. They'll be hyperactive, energetic individuals. Yes, yes, my God, I saw you. Then some people have lower energy levels. It doesn't mean they are not driven, but they are more understated in how they approach the world. Some people are very, very into people, your extroverts. They love engaging with people, they love connecting with people. Some are more introverted, yes, reserved. Some people are somewhere in the middle. Some people have high anxiety levels naturally. Even when all is fine, there's something they are worrying about. They worry, they go into the if, what if, and then they get worried. That's how they usually approach the world, with high anxiety. Other people approach the world with low anxiety. Some theirs is so low that they are really high when it comes to optimism and everything is going to be fine. And I'm not going to worry about tomorrow. I'm in the here and now, and here and now is great. So tomorrow is going to be perfect. Some people, that's how they approach the world.
So you cannot even use this to.
Yeah, so let's take the person who is up here in terms of their enthusiasm and optimism, and the person who is down here in terms of their anxiety level and their level of caution. Both experience the same adverse situation. They will respond differently. Let's say the adverse situation is going to drop somebody like 2 points when it comes to enthusiasm level, and is going to raise anxiety by 2 points. This person is already at a 0.9. Even when the adversity hits them, it knocks them down to what? 0.7. 0.7 is still pretty high for enthusiasm. So they might be the kind who would still find something funny on the very day that they are told your business gone down. Something would be said and they would, like some people have high humor, they would still laugh. This person is already at 0.4 for anxiety. This thing comes and knocks them down for their enthusiasm, then their anxiety goes up, they go to a 0.6. Or from 6 they go to a 0.8. They are going to express this differently. Then some people have high expressiveness of emotions, pleasant or unpleasant, some have low, some have medium. Adverse situation comes, this person goes down like this, this person goes down, that person goes further down. So one person is going to be crying, even if they are not wailing, tears, and they're going to say, oh, I'm going to miss this person. They're going to be talking and expressing, they'll put it on their status, Instagram, they'll put the person's picture on their DP, they'll leave it there for a long time. They're expressing their grief that way. Somebody else is acting like nobody died. No business got run down. My car wasn't stolen. It's all part of life. Or really they are sad, it may even show, but they're not talking about it. And then somebody is going to say you are doing it too much, or they'll tell you you're not doing it enough. Like, people are different. Personalities are different. And it affects
no
how we
proper
respond. There's no proper way. There's just what is going to help you thrive. That's it.
Wow. And when you answered the first question, you mentioned something about we are trying to explain and we cannot find the words. It's more painful. And I think I'm going to listen to this next question. How do you deal with resentment and anger?
Okay. Alright, so if you connect it to that situation, you are trying to explain, you can't find the words, it's getting more painful. You do become angry, resentful of the person who's putting you through this. I'm already dealing with this, and now you're making me have to go through this again. So resentment and anger builds up. Sometimes the feeling of resentment is directed at someone who maybe contributed to the adversity, was a part of it, or sort of supported the event. In my case, when I lost my baby, there was a doctor involved. There was what I see as professional medical negligence. The doctor said it wasn't. I believe it was, based on my knowledge. I studied law, I know what negligence looks like. I experienced this personally, so I know what it felt like. People around who saw what went down said, no, that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have been done that way. For quite some time, anytime I saw that lady, I set eyes on her, I would immediately have a blinding headache. And I rarely get headaches. Stress is one of the things that would give me a headache, but it has to be high level stress. So just seeing her, I still remember one day driving past a particular part of town. I saw her. Immediately the headache just came on.
Oh no.
Yes. So for a while I know there was a lot of anger towards her, and I had to fight that while trying to fight the grief of the loss of my baby. It didn't help when about less than a year later my husband then died. So someone who had been my co-partner in grief passed away as well. So it just made it worse. I then had to try and deal with the resentment and the anger and keep trying to not let it build up and boil over. So there is that as well. How do you deal with that? I would say several things I want to do. One is to continuously remind yourself that you don't need that. You don't need the added weight and strain of resentment and anger. Sometimes I'll remind myself that listen, this person isn't here for you to talk to her and tell her exactly what's on your mind. I did try to pursue certain legal means, but you know what it's like. It will stretch on for so long. And it just seemed to drag out. Yes, like it was never ending. Traveling to go for hearings and all that. I just said I am not fit to deal with this. Emotionally, I can't take this on as well. So sometimes you detach. He was there, he was gone. So sometimes you detach, you disconnect. I mean, it was a lot I was dealing with in the space of a year that then stretched on. I was dealing with the fact that I was still trying to heal from the surgery after the birth of my child. I was trying to deal with the death of my child, the grief, the death of my husband, the grief of that. Then I had to pile this on again. It was just like, no. So sometimes you just say, enough, I'm not dealing with that. Secondly, the second thing to do is to remember that the resentment is a form of pain. Anger is painful. Resentment is painful. And you are the one carrying it. So you are the one hurting even more. That's one reason to put it down to let it go. What sometimes happens is people try to rush you to the point of letting go. We come back again to people's expectations. You ought to let it go. You ought to forgive. You should forgive. Like they put it on you like there's a timeline. By this date, stop grieving. By this date, forgive. By this date, stop hurting. By this date, stop resenting. No, you have to give space to the person who's hurting to let go on their own. To drop the resentment and the anger on their own. You have to let them process it. Someone once said, what is forgiveness? When do you forgive? And I said, forgiveness is a journey. There is no when. It's personal. Forgiveness, the need to forgive someone arises because you are in pain. The pain itself arises because something happened. And you have to process through that. It takes time, so it's very personal. Resentment and anger, dealing with those, the personal journey. But do it for yourself primarily. Do it because you remember Allah says He is our God. He forgives. He wants us to learn to forgive. So even the learning, you can't rob someone of their learning process by saying, say I forgive and kiss and make up. Like we do with little children. But I even know from working with students and teenagers and so on, I learned a long time ago not to tell people kiss and make up. We just talk about it. We come to the point of trying to bring in justice where someone feels they've been aggrieved. So that's another thing you could do to deal with resentment and anger. If you can handle it, you can look for redress. You can look for justice. Go ahead and try. That's also another method. Because justice allows everyone to say clearly what you've done, what should have been. And if there's something that should be restored, then it should be restored. Restorative justice is a good process. ADR, mediation, is a good process for also dealing with resentment and anger. But don't walk around with it. It's painful and don't need more pain.
I just pray that one of my friends is listening right now because she also has something like this where there was a careless thing and her baby died. And then I'm telling her how would she take the matter to court. That it is not God that takes gender. You know that kind of thing, like
I understand.
So what's the problem?
Why
so
should
she's like, I don't understand.
No, you should. You see, even in our case, why we tried to get legal redress wasn't for us. It was because the doctor kept saying she didn't do anything wrong. And we wanted those who were charged to put her in her place, to sort things out, to sort it out. Like, she won't take it from us that she didn't do anything wrong. But you have the authority to tell her, no, you did something wrong. So we took the matter there. But like I mentioned, the system was slow and was really just draining.
What happened to somebody else?
It was more, let it not happen to somebody else. What I know eventually helped me say, let that process drop because I was bearing a lot emotionally. I couldn't deal with it anymore. What helped was when she finally came with someone to apologize. Now, whether she apologized because she felt the procedure we're following with the medical disciplinary council, maybe she felt that would eventually bring out very clearly what she'd done wrong and the repercussions would be great, or she was truly sorry about it. I don't know. It's between her and Allah. But she did come with somebody to apologize. And We talked briefly, but I think that day I got the chance to tell her that seeing you right now, I have a headache. I actually told her to her face that this is what I've been dealing with. So if your friend wants to seek legal redress and she's got the emotional strength to do it, she's got the emotional support to do it, she should go ahead and do it. After all, we have what are Sharia? Why are they Sharia courts? If we say everything is qadr, somebody died, it's qadr. Someone built a house and they built it badly, knowingly they were negligent and the house fell and killed people, it's qadr. Accident, qadr. Someone fires a gun carelessly, kills someone or maims somebody, qadr. Then why do we have Sharia courts? Why did Allah say that the Prophet ﷺ should be a judge of people? Why did he ever judge issues? Why did he say this person should restore that to that person? Why would he ever have done that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this to end. So I'm more enjoying myself. So please join us for the next episode, inshallah.
Inshallah. May Allah make it easy for
And
everyone who's struggling. May they find the strength to get through this one breath at a time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.